Now the great pleasure to introduce our next manifesto, the Drill Manifesto, the Choices Manifesto, by Ingo Niermann with Kyes. Ingo Niermann is a novelist, a very prolific leading novelist based in Berlin, a freelance writer and editor of the book series Solution. He's published many books, more recently Solution 9, The Great Pyramid with Jens Thiel, The Curious World of Drugs and Their Friends with Adriano Sack, China Calls You, as well as Methan with Christian Kracht. He is also at the origin of the revolutionary collective called Redesign Deutschland and invented a tomb for all people called The Great Pyramid. He will perform here together with Kyes, whom I mentioned earlier, because Zach designed our pamphlet and will also design the book. Zach is a designer based in London, art director of the Architectural Association, and has curated the exhibition Forms of Inquiry, the Architecture of Critical Graphic Design. He's also recently founded the Bedford Press, which is a private press established at the Architectural Association, and has run his own studio called Zach Group, where he was joined by Gregory Ambosch. A very warm welcome to Ingo Niermann, Kyes, and their Drill Manifesto, the Choices Manifesto.
The choices propose ways of behavior in a world full of unchosen choices. They are manifested in all forms and materials as long as they are cheap and simple to implement. The different choices on offer are closely connected. They are indoctrinations of an ideology which still has to come into existence.
Choose death. Existentialism discovered the possibility to kill oneself as mankind's ultimate freedom, accessible even under the most devastating circumstances. Today, medical process has to turn dying into a long-lasting procedure, and in the future it might be never-ending. Death isn't natural anymore. Waiting until all medical treatments finally fail is hardly affordable and little fun. To kill oneself is no longer just an option, one that's still illegal in many countries, but an essential element to a decent lifestyle. To choose death is a modern necessity. It is only a matter of when and how. Choose death originated as a faction of the Great Pyramid, evolving from a slogan coined by Ai Weiwei's architectural office, Fake Design.
Choose drill. Throughout history, human beings have increasingly taken fate into their own hands. They had a hand not only in land and machines, but also themselves. This they could do over and over in a new way or react to a specific constellation with an ever-constant, unconsciously performed behavior. The most rigorous technique for bringing this about consists in an ever-constant, but still conscious repetition, and is known as drill. With drill, man can systematically expand and update his repertoire of instincts. This is not possible for animals. They can learn, but quick repetition is taught to them either by way of coincidence or a trainer. In the history, people have also, for the most part, only ever been trained by others. Drill introduces people to a clear-cut ideal that transcends the individual. Already as a child, because that is when the desire and ability to learn are the strongest. Later in professions that presuppose absolute obedience, particularly that of a soldier. Drill is used only with reservation in the Western world today, as one finds discomfort in every irreversibility. No one wants to age, and death is crowded from consciousness. Even the transition to the hereafter seems too absolute. One would rather prefer to be born again. After waiting out his punishment, the criminal is rehabilitated. Waste gets recycled. Marriage can be divorced. Nothing should stand once and for all but it also shouldn't just disappear again. The ideal situation is total contingence. Anything is possible, which means that it becomes real as soon as one wants it to be. Machines already do enough to satisfy all of man's basic material needs. And yet, he is not prepared for a constant, full supply. Even the feeling of satiety isn't strong enough, and one is greedy for too much. Or one gets lazy and bored. To emotionally profit from the performance of machines at all, one either has to constantly spur oneself on or keep it in moderation. Should one seize control of oneself in this way, then one is already someone else. To produce a sustained effect, you have to drill. Freely forcing oneself, however, is a paradox. One has to introduce a second level. The quotation marks stay visible. One is not really in the game, but with every intention. If, in aestheticism, the artist or viewer becomes a work of art, one still continues to be confronted with the hardships of real life. With drill, on the other hand, it is possible to set all of life in quotation marks, even hunger and thirst. Because one is never just oneself, no longer does one believe, as one once did in psychoanalysis or scream therapy, in penetrating through to one's true self. One meditates without looking for a lost balance or center. Finally, one no longer needs to be terribly stupid or ill to be compulsive. Even a not necessarily lethal human sacrifice is possible again. Instead of becoming bitter with increasing age, because one experiences obstacles and objectives become unreachable, the chosen drill makes one sweet.
The Choice is in an ongoing series conceived by Ingo Niermann and Kyes. Thank you.
Thank you.